How's it? This video will show you how to remove your steering rack and rebuild the rack and pinion on a 240sx.
Let's go. Take out the 17mm nut, turn it around. You can use a hammer. As soon as you get that turned over, use a hammer. It sinks down. That means that it's no longer seized. Before you take this off, there's a nut here with the safety that you have to remove. I used a flathead, kind of pry it back. So as soon as when you have room to pry it back, I use a small adjustable wrench and I tighten it and you pry it back. There's 4, 1, 2, underneath 3, and the other side 4. As soon as you take out the safety plate, you can then loosen the nut and lefty loosey righty tighty. So use the adjustable wrench. As soon as that is done, so that's the front, driver's side, passenger side. There's 4 nuts to hold the rack. 1, 2, 3, and 4. As soon as that is done, release the tie rod and that side, this side, the nut here with the plate, power steering fuel lines. This one is the inner, going to the power steering rack housing, and then going out back to the reservoir. This is a size 17. This one is size 14. Then also you have to take out steering knuckles that's connected to the housing back to steering wheel rod, both size 12mm. Release this, take this out. I took a flathead screwdriver and then I start pounding it up. It creeps up a little bit so that you can go ahead and kind of release this from the housing, and then you can start taking this off or steering rack. Put it on pause so that I can take this out. Alright, we're gonna start taking out these tie rods. We already pre-loosened these, so you don't have to worry too much. Should push right out. I marked it with L on one side for left, the other side for R for right, so that when I do get my tie rod set up, I can match up the length so that I can then ride it to an alignment shop, and it should be good enough for me to drive it there and not to worry too much of it breaking. So we're gonna loosen this up. It's one side, next side. Shit, I didn't pre-loosen this. I only did the lock plate. Now, you're gonna see me struggle now. That's what happens. Take out this plate as well. Punch mark right here. There's one here and then the other side. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take pliers. Hopefully you can take this off. Oh, fucking reinforcements. These right here was hooked to the openings right here, so that's why I couldn't take it off. We're gonna start uninstalling these lines, right? The short line in the top, and the bottom is a longer line that reaches out to this side right here. So loosen up this nut, then you can loosen up this nut. To the seam line. See that punch hole right there? It's right here. We're gonna try to drill it out like what the field manual said. I think it said it's a drill bit of 2 to 2.5mm. So I'm using 332. Drill bit. So I drilled the punch mark, and it looks like I got to the screw. So the location of the punch mark, when you drill it, you're not hitting the threads of this screw right here. So it's okay for you to drill, and then as soon as when you see silver, you know you reached the end. So I already reached the end. Oh, frick! It freaking squirt. Holy smacks. Squirt only down here. Gosh. What the hell? Holy smack. Alright, don't make the same mistake. So I push this inside, and out goes the fluid onto the AutoZone, and get 1/5/8 socket so that I could take out this part right here. We're gonna see. Finally got it off safely. Drilled it, cut it. Alright, just took out the 1/5/8 nuts. So now moving on to trying to see if we can take out steering wheel rack housing. I think there's like 3 star socket type of nuts that you have to take out. So these are 10mm. Let's go and take that out. If you don't have this, I wouldn't recommend just using a regular socket. Go to, I don't know, O'Reilly's, pick up a star socket like this. Probably you spend like a good, what, 10 bucks. Reassurance that it is gonna be done the right way and it's not gonna be loose tread. Yeah, I think it's worth it. Ooh. 10 to 15 foot-pounds on my ass. Ooh. Steering wheel rack is so dirty. I'm afraid that some of this debris might get inside. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. I'll put back the adapters. So, and also I cut up like the glove. What I'm gonna do is cover it. Alright, we're gonna first degrease this bad boy using this.
I apologize, I lost the footage of taking apart the rack. It should be self-explanatory after removing the 1/5/8 and the 3-star nut. Make sure to remember the orientation of each part when disassembling the rack. I used the gate seal kit from Rock Auto. If you have a 1994 S13, make sure to order the 1993 S13 seal kit. So let's start rebuilding the rack and pinion.
So for this one, four pinion seal rings. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Carefully take this out. Down a little bit. Transmission fluid. Dental floss. Okay, this thing. be careful. These Teflon pinion seal rings can break. That's the whole reason why we're using a lube and a floss. Got an O-ring, this one. This one is going to take a lot of work. So the rack seal ring is pretty thick. So you would have to lube. We're gonna try to put it in. Just twist it around. It's a little lopsided. So and then you're just gonna roll it. It worked. All right, we're gonna start putting it together on the rack. Just gonna lube it around. Is spring side up. All right. The size 24 socket. Cinch it in. You can get a pick to see if there's a gap in there. All right, we're good to go. We're gonna put the new O-ring. Loop it up. These are our last seals. Both of the seals are identical. Know that there's springs on one side and the other side is flat. The springs always face the inside. And what we're gonna do, tape these gears so that when we slide these seals in, it doesn't cut up in the insides. We're gonna tape it with electrical tape. All right, so this is how the setup is gonna be. Fat metal washer. I'm gonna install the inside here. It's gonna stop right here. Next, this gasket shaft. Make sure springs are facing inwards, right? Because it'll be located right here. And this last seal is gonna be located right here. So now what we're gonna do is install this seal, and we're gonna use this for lube. And we're gonna lube the shaft so you can slide easily. Okay. And then we're gonna go ahead and lube the sealer. And remember, the spring is facing inside. Got it in, looks good. Just gotta make sure that the white plastic part is not coming out or anything. It looks good to me. We're gonna lube the inside. All right. So that it's easier to install the center bushing. We're gonna take out the electrical tape and start assembling this. Now the seal is in here. It's pretty tight for the seal to move where it needs to be, which is right here next to the center bushing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a dead blow hammer and hit it inside. We're gonna hit it until it bottoms out. All right, the seal is all the way in. The shaft is bottomed out. It almost past the threads. One way to know that it's in there and it's sealed is that you can put your finger right here, move the shaft. If it has pressure and it's gonna bounce back by itself, you know it's all sealed in there. You got the seal in along with center bushing, and it's already bottomed out. We can then now take out the electrical tape because we no longer need this part to be covered. Make sure you rotate the shaft so that the teeth is facing this way so that the gears can connect with this shaft. All right, we're in the last seal, which is this one right here. Remember that the spring side will be going in. The flat side will be facing out. All right, and it's gonna be located just right here. All right, we're gonna lube it. Gonna lube the shaft. All right, safely enter it in. Just be careful that there's a little indentation right here. It's difficult for the shaft to enter. Just make sure that you support this plastic white part that is inside of the seal. If you can see it, the white part. I use 4 of my fingers, hold it down, and just push it down. We got our seal in, and just get it in there. And what's gonna push it in the right position is this end cover assembly. All right, put that in. So we're gonna do 49 foot-pounds. I tightened this end cover assembly nut 50 foot-pounds. Now we're gonna go ahead and do a punch mark. So the punch mark needs to be at least 2 to 3 inches from the screw. Right, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. I got this from Harbor Freight. It's about like, I don't know, $7 I believe, but it was on sale, so I got it for like $4. You think I'm gonna use this again? I don't know. All right, we're gonna do the housing. So what goes in first is the seal. Remember that the flat side goes in, spring up, and we're gonna use lubrication. Extension to push it down. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put the bearing in. Just remember that the exposed side, more exposed side of the bearing is the one that's gonna go in, and the flat side is gonna face up when assembling it in this view. Lube it. Put it in. Find a socket that is a similar diameter. This one is 24. Lift it up. It's good to to go. So now we're gonna go ahead and lube the inside of the housing area, including the gears, with multi-grease, high temp. Just make sure you get it all the way inside, because there is a small bearing in there that supports this shaft. Make sure to put grease in all the gears so it's all protected. Make sure you clean the grease that is above the seals. Alright, we got it all cleaned up. Now we're gonna put our gear back with the new pinions. Smooth. Alright, now we're gonna put in the O-ring. We're gonna take some transmission fluid to lubricate the Teflon seals. Don't forget this paper thin washer. It's very thin. It's like aluminum looking. Make sure it's clean. Carefully put it on. Now we're going to tighten up the housing with these 3 star nuts using E10 star sockets. Hand tightening these, I wouldn't recommend using power tools. Liquid sand 12 to 15 foot-pounds. Adjustable nut assembly area. First, we're gonna put the retainer. Get some grease. Drop her in. Then this plate, this washer plate, it's gonna put just a little bit of grease in it. Spring in there, just put a little grease. We're gonna put the thicker washer. Then the thin washer. Make sure that the white painted part of the spring is facing out. We're gonna put lock sealant right here. You don't have to put too much.
Follow these steps to properly tighten the adjusting screw and lock nut.
My apologies, I came back from a trip. This is the finished product after I painted, and it's all cured by the time when I came home. So now what we have to do is put the gear housing 2 blinds. The shorter one is in the top to the closest to the housing, and the longer one is the bottom of the housing to the furthest of the rack. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. This is 14 to 20 foot-pounds. Both sides are different. The one that has the indentation inside, that's the one that goes into the rack. We're gonna tighten these adapters from 17 foot-pounds. I'm using a crow's foot because I don't have a deep socket. When using a crow's foot, just remember that the nut needs to be in the side of the torque wrench. Now with the inner tie rods, I went with the S14 inner tie rod. The reason why I went with that is because it has a fatter diameter, and I was hoping that it would not bend how the S13 bent. As you can see, the S14 much beefier. It does not break or bend like how the OEM S13 does. That's why I went with the S14 setup. The ISR, it came with a spacer so that my wheels can get a much more angle when I drift. With the ISR inner, I went with S14 tie rod and move. This brand, you can get it at the Advanced AutoZone. It came with the crown nut, the pin. We're taking out the boot so that we can take the length and then we can match it up with our newer tie rod. Make sure to count the rotations so that you can put it back when this boot is off and you can go ahead and measure it. 25. So what we're gonna do now is measure this tie rod. We're gonna measure in the middle of this right here, this screw, and to the end of here. We're gonna take that 13 and we're gonna match up the length to the new tie rod. Alright, but for this, we're gonna start measuring in the beginning of the spacer to the middle of this tie rod end. That's good enough. And what I like to do is mark it up with a permanent pen so that if I do need to move it again to put the boot on, I know where it goes. Boots are very expensive, so think about reusing this. For the right side. That one is done. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and do the driver's side of the tie rod. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 21. All right, now we completed the steering wheel rack. We cleaned it up, we painted it, we changed the rack and pinion inside, we installed the lines, and we got the tie rods. We upgraded to the S14s. We got the right measurements from the beginning of this spacer to the middle of this screw. All you have to do is reverse the sequence of uninstalling the tie rod ends and steering wheel rack to the 240sx S13. So now I'm gonna end it here. I hope this video helped you out. Please like and subscribe to these videos. It helped me out to know that these contents is helping you all out. Peace.